Youth Sports Network presents TouchDown Ontario with Devin Gilmore McNeil.
Welcome back to TouchDown Ontario's Fall Football Recap. Fall Football Roundup, I should say. Episode 5 here, joined by 3 special guests, back with Jesse Card, Russell Silverson, and a special guest, Sydney Parks from the Burlington Stampeders in the OFFL. Sid, how are you doing?
I'm good, Devin. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Really appreciate you coming on, talk some OFFL. Obviously, the second week of the OFFL is down now. Your U14 Burlington Stampeders are 2-0 on the season. What are your thoughts 2 weeks in and having an undefeated ball club early on in the season?
Well, it's a competitive league. And I don't want the scores to reflect on how the games went. We played Oakville week 1, and they were a very physical, hard-nosed team that absolutely exercised all 4 of their downs, and our players had to face that adversity of going up against kids that were a lot bigger and a lot stronger than them. And then again, week 2, don't let the score reflect the game, because Cambridge were always organized. They weren't missing guys on the field. They showed multiple looks, so they're doing a great job at developing their athletes for future seasons. And yeah, they were very good games by very good coaches on their teams. And moving forward, we have Hamilton, and after that Scarborough. And Scarborough's looking like the team to beat. And Hamilton are also a very good pass-heavy offense. So everything is going to be earned in this league. So I don't think when anyone gets a win, again, like score aside, you earn it. So I think that's the beauty of this AAA U14 league. All the coaches in the league know that. We're relaying that to our parents and our community, and our players, just so they understand that we can't take a practice off, can't take a meeting off. This journey, the next, I guess, 10 weeks, if you want to go right to the end of Fall Cup, it's going to be long. It's going to be emotionally hard. So, but again, so far for the first 2 weeks for OFFL, it's been competitive. For Burlington, we're very privileged to have a good group of kids and a great set of volunteers on our staff. And again, our goal is just to keep the momentum going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think starting off 2-0, I kind of wanted to touch on the Stamps organization as a whole. Obviously, the renowned success in the OSFL has kind of transitioned over to the OFFL, and I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on Burlington collectively as an organization. I mean, you look at the OSFL, back-to-back U16 AAA provincial championships, U14's competitive every year as well. They're always in the playoffs. And then you look at U18, they won the KJ Kenemy Memorial Cup in the OSFL. So from your perspective, being a member of that association and seeing all the success that Burlington has, what do you think that reflects on the organization as a whole from a top down, and why is Burlington such a staple in Ontario-wide football right now?
So I joined Burlington back in January 2022. We like to really get things going and early, and that off-season addition to our development is absolutely part of our success on the field when we get into the summer and fall seasons. When we talk about how is Burlington able to do this year in and year out with different staffs and different players, I lost my train of thought there for a sec. But we're able to do this year in and year out because we are competitive internally. That's what I'm trying to say. So we are competitive internally. We don't compare our organization with other organizations. We do a very good job at asking ourselves, how can we be better? We will simply put up a SWOT analysis of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and we go, how can we overcome this? How can we take on opportunity? So we do a very good job at being accountable within our organization, available all as volunteers. We show up to everything. Even though I'm a U14 head coach, I'll come out and I'll check out the U10s and I'll talk to their team manager and I'll see like, hey, is there anything else that I can help you with? So it's a very close-knit community. And we're always competitive internally. And we just take a look at this past summer, U10s won the provincial title, U14s were top 4, U16s won the provincial title, and U18, like you said, they won KJ Kenemy Cup. So there is success coming out of BMFA, and you take a look at the last 10 years, there's a couple guys playing pro. Like we got Josh Palmer over for Chargers. Rourke is absolutely killing it. And again, it's just we're privileged enough as an organization to have had these athletes come in and out, and they continue to support BMFA from the point of view of an alumni. But our current members or current players and parents, they see that support. So they go, okay, there's a lot of pride here. There's a lot of joy, and these coaches come back. They volunteer, but they come back year in and year out after volunteering 20, 30. And I know some coaches that maybe even do 40-hour weeks. So it's just, it is a long and like emotionally hard process. But that success comes from that commitment. We all have our own little motivation when it comes to football, but we bring that collectively together and ask ourselves, how can we be competitive internally, and how does that competitiveness translate over to on-field play? And we did that really, really well this summer. And our success right now at the U14 level is not just a translation of the current staff that we have, but a lot of our players, they came from that U14 program in the summer, and the other half, the U12 program over the summer, they came from good people, from good staff. So it's not solely on just me as head coach and my staff. We are privileged to have had good people lead these kids prior, and we are just their next step in their story. So it is definitely an organization where we all work together. We definitely have our hiccups and bumps in the road, but ultimately there's a road, and we're all on it. We're all on the same travel ticket, and we're all wanting to go to the same end. So again, we're competitive internally. And these kids on their end, I would say they're very lucky to have an organization, a board of directors, and multiple coaching staffs that really, really care.
Well, Sydney, I'll jump in here. When the Fall Cup was hosted by the Stampeders last fall, it was just really, really well put together, really organized, really gracious group of volunteers that put that together. And, the facilities at Nelson High School are pretty amazing for a high school. So, the fact that you have a field house, you're able to offer a few of those amenities that, other clubs around the province probably would only dream of. I mean, I think that helps with building that pride.
Yeah, no, and a lot of that is Coach Jeff Brock over at Nelson, and he's our tackle director for BMFA, and he's done an amazing job in recent years in getting Nelson culture and BMFA to really unite, and the Fall Cup is a big component of that. When we hosted that, and we redid the facility in the back, painted it like a whole repaint with the Stamps logo, repainting the score box, and again just showcasing the province. Like what kind of resources we have for our players in our community, but at the same time, we're not just going to have them and waste them. We're going to exercise every opportunity to not just have the players grow, but the community. Because if the community grows, then the next wave that when they come in, they're going to have an even better experience. So, no, thank you for saying that, and I know Coach Brock and the rest of the board of directors would really appreciate hearing those words.
Now, and just a kind of a footnote on that comment too, we know the tradition that Nelson High School has. I'm sure a lot of those OSFL players are playing on that football team this fall. I know they're 2-0, I believe. But maybe talk a little bit about that relationship. Like, how have you developed that relationship where the high school football team is collaborating and contributing to the minor football in Burlington? Because I think that's not common across the province. So the fact that you've been able to do that in Burlington, maybe you can talk a little bit about why that makes sense to both organizations and the school, and what's the vision in Burlington for the OFFL? Does a U16 and a U18 or U19 ever come into conversations about having kind of a provincial team in those leagues that are outside of the high school system?
So no, I can absolutely say out of the gate, the relationships between the high school community and BMFA is real strong. And there's respect across the board. So I'll first say this: guys like Jeff Brock, Coach Dino from Corpus, Coach Shaq from Robinson, Coach Pete from Assumption, and like that list can go on. These are all coaches that that lead high school programs, and they put their best foot forward when it comes to offering high quality rep football in the community. And BMFA recognizes that, and BMFA and like, I'm not going to speak on behalf of the board on this, but I can greatly assume that we won't have a U16 or U18 program in the fall, just because we really respect the high school programming here. The high schools, like, there's only one rep program, and there are over a dozen high school programs in the Halton area. They produce more U Sports programs, U Sports players collectively than BMFA does. Now, we obviously have a part of that development. But at the end of the day, there are players that also just play high school football, and that's their choice, and we are very proud of their mature decision making. But Halton football is a great. It's in good standing between high school and BMFA, at least from my perspective. I don't volunteer for a high school program. I commit everything I have right now into BMFA. But I really get to see these high school coaches after their 2-hour practices after school, then come out and still volunteer for more football later at night for another 2 or 3 hour practice at BMFA. And I'm beyond impressed. And again, Coach Brock, Coach Dino, Coach Pete, Coach Shaq, and those are just like program leads. There are a lot of other support staff on high schools that come out and continue being support staff at BMFA. I'm astounded by it. And even in the shoes that I'm in right now, I'm very honored that I get to be the one to speak on that to the rest of the province and say Burlington coaches are like amazing people. They are great people, and they can be great coaches, which they are, but I want to surround myself and my community around good people, and like that's what BMFA and Burlington football are. So we won't have a U16 U19 program in further years in the fall. Like I can confidently say that, and I know the board will shoot me a text and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know I just know there is a great relationship between the organization and the high school programs, to the point where we encourage high school coaches. I'll text high school coaches, you got to come out. This kid's going to go to your school next year, so I really want you to meet them already. So it is a really cool relationship here.
It sounds like you've got a really great symbiotic relationship where you're developing these kids, you're identifying them, and then you're helping them get to that high school level. And we know in that region, high school football is so good. So, it's a perfect system by the sounds of it.
Yeah,
right?
it's progression, not perfection. So we're just trying to figure out what can we do to be better. But yeah, no, thank you. And yeah, the Halton area is absolutely in good hands by multiple people.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't say enough about the Stamps program as a whole, and being able to cover them more closely over the past couple of years, Jess, since we've been so involved with the OSFL and now the OFFL as well. But Sid, let's kind of break down this U14 Burlington Stampeders team a little bit more closely. So obviously we mentioned it at the top. You guys are 2-0. You're the head coach of this team, Sid, and I kind of just wanted to get a couple tidbits of information from you as far as players to watch for the Stamps, and kind of what you're expecting from this group this season.
Yeah, so we as a staff, we are very privileged with a good group of kids and a very experienced group of kids already. So I'll start with the kids first, because they are the most important part of any football program. Without players, you can't have a team, and I'll start with the offensive side of the ball, because we really try to minimize two-way players. We do have a few, but I'll start with our quarterback. He's been an amazing leader on the field at practice. He leads by example in games. He's only played the first half of the first 2 games, and he's thrown 8 touchdowns, 0 picks, and about 400 yards. And we're very proud of his performance. But I am very proud of his ability to be humble, and he will throw the balls that he does, and sorry, it just got dark here. That he's able to go out there and make plays, but come back to the sideline and ask coaches, what did I do wrong? And then when the time comes in the second half for us, he'll go to the backup quarterback and say, hey, I see this from the secondary. I see this from the defense. You're able to find success if you can do this stuff. So our quarterback, Ethan LaPlante, has been an amazing leader. Our offensive line, a lot of them in the past, they haven't played offensive line before. So we have a couple linebackers there, a defensive end, and we went up to them at the beginning of the year and said, if you want to win games, you got to serve and protect the guy behind you, because if we can't move the ball, we can't score, we can't win. So they understood that. They bought into that culture. And our Will backer, Mike backer, and the defensive end, they start on the offensive line. And again, our starting unit, Ethan has not been sacked yet this year, so the timing is there for Ethan to perform. And then we have a surplus of receivers, and so we're able to really push our receivers to showcase their best effort at practice and remind them that we're going to make practices harder than games, and if they're not able to finish practice, we'll go with next man up. We do have a surplus at that position, so we're able to really bring out the best of our receivers. And the starting rotation, it's been different guys the last 2 weeks. So Colton Hannaford, Xavier, Ben Gerard, Noah Walters, Jaden, Eli, like these are all great dudes, and those are 6 guys, and we'll have 4 or 5 on the field at a time. We do got some good ball carriers and Nate Daniels and Ben McBride, but they also know that they have to pass protect as well. Same with Jack Izzy. Jack Izzy being a big body already, playing rugby for the first time he's playing football, and he's doing a real good job with it. And we have a lot of those guys, because even Noah Walters, first time playing tackle football, and the kid can already jump and grab a rim of a basketball net. So it's just really cool to see these kids showcase for the first time their tackle football abilities and find success. And then just going on the defensive side and carrying on with players playing for the first time. We have this defensive end, Dylan Barrett. He's recorded a sack in each of his first 2 games, and he's never even played flag football. So this is his first time ever with football, and he's able to pick up not just A gap, B gap, C gap on the defensive line, but we're teaching alignments in tech. So he understands 4 tech, a tilted 5, a 4-eye, and it's like this is really, really cool. But that's also a reflection of the coaches putting their players in a position to succeed. Our coaches do a good job at creating PDF templates, creating homework for the kids to study. We really utilized August for that because the kids aren't in school yet. But Dylan Barrett has been performing real well on defense. Our linebackers, Cody Almeida at Mike Backer, he recorded his first pick 6 last game against Cambridge, and what we loved about that as a staff was he ran for the pick 6, and all of the other 11 players are meeting him into the end zone, and they are all excited as a unit. Even though our corners haven't been able to get a lot of action the first 2 games because it was against 2 run-heavy teams, our corners feel so engaged into the culture and into the content and on-field play because they know they have a role, they know it's their job, and they know that they trust the guy next to them at half, and that half trusts the guy inside at backers and end. So the communication and love is there. So again, when a guy like Cody at Mike scores a pick 6, the first 2 guys down there are the corners. They love it. They love the culture. And then I'll highlight these 2 other defenders real quick. We run kind of a 2 safety system, so we have 6 in the box. So we have Zach Hopkinson, who was Team Ontario U14 Defensive Player of the Game. And then we have another athlete back at the safety position, Ethan Ball. And Ethan Ball was someone that did play summer football for the first time, and he was really trying to get a feel for it from what it sounded like just by talking to the past staff. We get him in August, we put him in some tackling drills, and we're like, okay, this young guy brings a bit more power to the table compared to other players, but he's played defensive back before. We'll keep him at safety because he's also quick. And then it turns out we found out that he was probably the hardest and toughest, hardest hitting player and toughest guy on our team because a guy went down on kickoff. Ethan Ball, can you please get in there? And the first time he's in there, he goes downfield, not untouched. He just bull rushes 2 blockers, and he's able to get the returner within 15 yards of the end zone. And the coaches, we all look at each other. We try to be our best on the sideline as a staff, not necessarily be stoic, but just be responsible and professional. But we couldn't get over what we saw from someone. So he is a person, Ethan Ball, who truly exceeded expectation. And he's able to do that every time he's on the field. And we let players know you can start on our list somewhere, whether it's you're on the cut list, whether it's your backup, whether it's, okay, you're new to football, and so we're going to put you in a position to succeed. But Ethan Ball, he was able to really prove to our program quick, no, I want this more than anyone else. And we put him on kickoff on a special teams unit, and that's where we saw that. Now we're able to utilize Ethan Ball in other ways because of what he showcased on special teams. And because of that, a lot more players take a respect to special teams, which is real huge for us. So, again, like I could go off on a lot of our kids. Again, we are privileged to have a real good unit. U14 is always a unique age group because some players develop quicker than others. Usually at U12s, everyone's here. U16s, everyone's here. U14s, it's that mix. So we try to keep everyone safe and put them in a position to succeed. We do have a lot of athletes that are a little bit more developed than others. So at the end of the day, it's just ensuring that those athletes remain in good standing with our principle and character demands when it comes to a program. They are a leader to the guys that aren't starting, to the guys that are still trying to figure things out in the world of football. And really, as long as our staff promotes good culture, again, progression, not perfection, be proud, never satisfied, open minds, open hearts. These are terms and verbiage that we'll use every day at practice. And the players, like it seems that they have bought in so far, but we always just have to stay on them because one bad practice, you never know, right? So no, we are very lucky. And just to highlight the coaches, Darren Daw as our defensive coordinator, I worked with him at U18 in the summer, got to know him. I built a lot of trust with Darren Daw, so he's our defensive coordinator. Michael Scarfone, he played at Guelph and finished his career at McMaster Football, so he's our offensive coordinator. His father, Phil Scarfone, he's a 1984 Heck Creighton winner, so he's our quarterback coach for Ethan LaPlante, which is pretty cool. Liam Dick, O-line coach, graduated from Texas State last year, so he's back up in Canada working with our O-line. And then we got a lot of enthusiasm on the defensive side of the ball. Roy Hernandez, Eric De La Cruz, Devontae Ballantyne graduated from McMaster last year as well. We have a very good staff, very energetic. Not 100% of us are young, not 100% of us are old. It's a very good mix, and we communicate so well. There's a lot of love. We have our own group chat like any other staff, and we'll absolutely crack a joke here and there. But every time me as a head coach, every time I see a joke being cracked between the coaches, I see an opportunity for bonding. I see the opportunity of, okay, love is being established here, and we're going to need that when the going gets hard, because we're undefeated right now, but the goal was never to be undefeated. The goal was to progress throughout the season, make the playoffs, and then go undefeated from there. So no, it's been a very great experience, a lot of support from the community and the board of directors, and there's been conversations about, hey, what's off-season training looking like, and we're trying to just slow things down and be like, let's focus on the now, and let's really make sure that we finish the job.
Well, I think, Sydney, you've highlighted, I think, one of the most important things. Like when you're building a culture and you've got a program and you've got some values there, like playing football as a young person is kind of secondary. You're joining that fraternity and you're being a part of something where there's those intergenerational connections happening and that love is happening, and like the football will take care of itself. I think that's really commendable, and it sounds like you're going to be set up for the future there for that football and producing great athletes. But
no, thank you. And it's just to top off what you said, that generational aspect, because we've had alumni reach out that are currently playing youth sports. Ryan Grant from Carleton, Nolan Rico from UFT, Cam McKay from Ottawa, and they're asking, hey, when are games? When are practices? We would love to come out and support. And I even take it a step further and go, yes, come out, but I want you to wear the gear that like for the team that you represent, and I actually want you to speak to the team. I want you to tell them that it wasn't long ago that you were in their shoes. So no, there is a huge positive culture going on at Burlington football, and I really wish I can put it more into words, but for the most part, you just got to be there to see it, and it's a really beautiful thing that we got going on there. And but again, it's not just at one program or one age group. It's at all of them. It's the board of directors. It's the community. Burlington football is just super nice like that, and at the end of the day, you can coach all the X's and O's right. You can do all the conditioning right, all the off season right. But if it's led by not good people, you're going to struggle with culture. We have good people, and really, we would rather good coach, better person. That's what we want. So if you bring that better person mentality to the table and you're kind and respectful to your neighbor, to everyone, whether they know football or not, the kids see that, and the kids are reminded, oh, I am my best self without an ego. So we just drop the E and we go. And that's just a Coach Orlando thing from the Ticats. So yeah. Okay, so I'll start with two teams. One, we play them this week, and it's Hamilton. And there is that rivalry there between Burlington and Hamilton. I believe they call it Battle of the Bridge. So it's always a unique game. We host it this year, and I can already tell, being at a 4 p.m. kickoff at Nelson Stadium, the stands are going to be packed. I even think the track is going to be packed, because there is there is always an energy with those kind of games. And Hamilton football, having McMaster University there, having their own like success in their high school area, they are hard nosed football there. And we have Burlington. We just discussed what we are able to produce and do as well. So there's a lot of good football in the Burlington Hamilton games. And a lot of good coaching. Coach Vinny over at Hamilton, he brings a lot of energy into his kids. He's able to get them motivated to do anything that fits their system. And we as a staff, we see that, and we need to have our players and even our parents, because it's a young group of players. So we need our parents and the rest of the community to know we are about to enter the toughest opponent yet. And so we can't look at the last two games and go, oh, this is just going to be the standard. It's no, 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 no. Our input is going to be the standard. The outcome, it's going to change based off of what else is at play. So what we control is our effort. That's the input. And Hamilton, they're going to put their best foot forward, and it's going to be an absolute four-quarter game. And everyone's excited. I think there's nerves all across the board, definitely on my end, just because I really care about my staff and my kids, and I know Coach Vinny does for Hamilton as well. But it's going to be a very, very exciting game. Hamilton are a very pass-first team, but they got some good backs as well, and aggressive D-line. So I think there's going to be many firsts for our program when it comes to facing challenge and adversity. We might give up the first sack. We might throw the first pick. We might give up the first touchdown on our starting defense. So there's going to be a lot of potential firsts. And I'm curious to see how we respond to that, because everyone's going to have challenges. How you respond to it, that's the definition of good or great. So, so Hamilton, they're going to bring a lot to the table. But I think it's very transparent across the league that Scarborough's the team to beat. So they had a week 1 bye. Durham beat Hamilton week 1 in a contended matchup. And then Scarborough beat Durham. I believe it was, I don't have the exact score, but I think it was like 27-8. It was like that. Yeah. So Scarborough, when they put that on notice, the rest of the league took a greater attention to them, and obviously the study and the due diligence and the research started to go. And they have some very good, talented athletes, and getting connected with the Team O coaches, asking them what were the Scarborough athletes there, and they said the Scarborough athletes, they're going to go off and achieve greatness. And those are the kind of athletes that our guys are going to have to go up against. And again, that's another form of adversity that we are going to have to deal with, and we're going to have to overcome that. And so, and in addition, Scarborough have always been an energetic program as well. They produce athletes year in and year out that go off to U Sports programs. And outside of those Team Ontario players they have at Scarborough, they have a great offensive line, an aggressive nose tackle on their D line. They have receivers that are 13 years old like everyone else, but they're 5'11" or 6 foot. So it's going to be very interesting to see our 4'11" corner go up against that. So there's a lot of challenge and a lot of variables at play. Lights back on, and we're definitely curious to know how Scarborough do going into this weekend as well. We're focused on us against Hamilton, but Scarborough's definitely the team to beat. So all respect to Scarborough for starting the season absolutely strong against what everyone thought was the favorite. And that's not taking anything away from Durham either. Durham are a well-run organization as well. Coach Carey, he's the president of Durham Dolphins, and he's accountable for his actions. He keeps his coaches accountable over at Durham. So pretty much between Durham, Hamilton, Scarborough, and I like to put us in the picture there, and not taking anything away from Cambridge or Oakville when it came to the score, but also Cambridge and Oakville, they're well-run organizations as well. They have competitive coaches. They're teaching the right things as well. So the OFFL, there's a lot of internal competition. It's going to be very interesting for the next month to see how things evolve. I wouldn't be shocked if it gets to a point where and again, nothing against my community, nothing against anyone, but I wouldn't be shocked if, okay, Hamilton beats Burlington beats Scarborough, and Scarborough beats Hamilton. So now there's that, okay, they all have one loss. No one went undefeated. That's the best kind of football, because you know everyone's competitive across the board. You know they're going to see each other again in the playoffs. So you get to see, are the players going to get coached a little bit differently because of what they saw on the field the first time? And how are the players going to react? It's such a young age where emotions run high, and they can really be the main variable at play. So how are players going to enter the field the second time against these teams? So I'm very excited to see this league unfold its competitiveness to the rest of Ontario. We see it over on NCAFA, and you guys started 2 weeks before us, and we got to see, wow, Cumberland, Kanata, Nepean, like these are competitive teams. And what Cumberland did in the summer, it's obviously like there's some form of translation into the fall. Nepean, they have size. Alexander Stevenson is doing an amazing job over there. And again, we want to recognize that success over there as well. But for the OFFL, I think there's going to be a lot of interesting competitive variables at play here. I think the Hamilton, Scarborough, us, and even Durham, that mix, it's going to make a very interesting playoff picture. And ultimately, me being a part of the OFFL, I hope whoever comes out on top, they're able to perform in the Fall Cup.
Sydney, do you see next year an opportunity for maybe one out of conference regular season game between an OFFL and an NCAFA team?
That would be really, really cool. If there was, I think meeting halfway either at Queen's University or somewhere would be a really cool sight. Actually, I think Queen's would be perfect for that at Richardson Stadium. Making it early in the year before school starts would be the best way to do that. Next year, why not? We got to make that push to make that happen at a beginning of the year, because I think we have 7 teams in U14 AAA. So let's get those 7 teams matched up with 7 NCAFA teams. Let's do it week 1. And let's have Queens just host it all, right? Like, I'm just trying to go over the logistic of that.
Yeah, maybe a weekend that Queens is out of town would work, and you could put all the games in one weekend right there.
Someone's got to call Coach Snyder, and we really got to set this up. Yeah, absolutely. we need to finish. We started strong, and we just got to finish the job. And I see that it's really going to be up to these players. Our coaches can do everything right. We can coach these guys up to everything that we know, but our players need to have a finish mentality. I do believe there's a lot of pride, there's a lot of respect with one another. They bring the talent. There's no question. They just got to finish the job and understand that challenge awaits. And when you see that challenge, that's when you got to love the sport even more. So what we got to do, we just got to finish the job. We got to go into Hamilton and Scarborough strong with the understanding that we're going to see, if not one, both of them again in playoffs. And stay healthy. We got to recover because even early in the year, you get some players saying that they're that they got some bumps and bruises, and we tell them, okay, well, there are ways to go about this. And so we do a lot of yoga after our practices, and we really focus on recovery and nutrition. But we got to finish the job, and we say to the players, if you don't finish practice, how can you expect to finish a game? So if you don't finish practice, you can't play. So there's that mentality that we're really trying to instill into the players and even the parents. But we are doing a good job so far at keeping everyone on the same page. But it is a long season. We're still in September. Fall Cup is November 17th, I'm guessing. I'm just trying to count out the dates. So a lot of time, 2 months from now, pretty much. So we have 2 months until that time. A lot of change can happen. So keeping everyone healthy and finishing the job at hand, that's where we're going to find success now, and that's how we, as the Burlington Stampeders, will find ourselves in the Fall Cup. We were asking ourselves that, and we were trying to see how much film is available just through the internet of Cumberland and Nepean. We couldn't find much on Canada, but Cumberland are fast. They are fast at all positions. They have defensive ends faster than most receivers in Ontario. And they are well coached. I don't know that head coach's name, but he brings a lot of energy. And the players, we see how his players look at him. His players love him. So when you have that relationship from player to coach, it makes it hard for other teams to beat you. So Cumberland, they bring good culture and a lot of speed to the table. And Nepean, again, another staff we're not too familiar with, but they've obviously done a great job at getting their kids to start and finish the game the right way. They played what looked like a competitive battle against Cornwall this past weekend, but nevertheless they came out with a win. So they bring a lot of size, they bring a lot of strength and experience. And again, their smallest O-lineman looks like our biggest O-lineman. So it's like, okay, these are two very good NCAFA programs in Nepean and Cumberland, but they are both finding success in their own different ways. So it's very hard for me to say right now which one, Russell, but this game coming up, I think it'll be game of the year for all regular season play across the board, because they're two very different teams, where with us, Hamilton and Scarborough, we're all pass first teams. So like that's and we're all let's attack the outside, where it sounds like Nepean, they like to run the rock a little more, and Cumberland, seeing their clips, any little space they're given, they'll take advantage of. So I'm hoping to find a way to even watch that game. We're really looking at Nepean or Cumberland. And kudos to both staffs for really preparing their players on game day, and best of luck to both of them when it comes to that matchup, because again, I think that's going to be game of the year at all regular season play.
Well, Sid, what I will say is I'd love to see a Cumberland-Burlington matchup. The rivalry that's kind of came to life there in the past couple of years in the OFFL, especially at U16, has been a sight to see, and both organizations are ran so well, and seeing them go to head to head would be awesome. But what I will say also about that Nepean Cumberland game this weekend, we have a shooter going there to capture some content, so be on the lookout for that if you want to see how that game unfolds, a little bit deeper look. But yeah, Sid, no, we really appreciate your time and jumping on with us here today. Want to say good luck with the rest of the season, and hoping to see you in Ottawa here later this November.
No, Devin, Jesse, Russell, thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you for listening. No, again, thank you for having me. Thank you for wanting to know more about Burlington and the OFFL. And yeah, we cannot wait for the opportunity to hopefully for us at Burlington play in the NCAFA team in the Fall Cup. But at the end of the day, that game is going to be a great one to watch for all the province to see.
TYSN would like to thank Area 51 for its support of the TouchDown Ontario program.
Welcome back. We would just want to say thanks once again to Sydney Parks and the entire Burlington football organization for him coming on and giving us more of a breakdown of the OFFL and fall football in general, and obviously the Stampeders organization, which Jesse, Russell, I mean, they've been a dominant force for the past few years, and they're going to continue to do that. Switching gears over to NCAFA, gentlemen. I kind of wanted to start this conversation with another heartfelt, another tragic loss in the NCAFA community. To say it's been a hard season for NCAFA as a whole would be an understatement. Quentin Dorsainville, former Canada Knight and Cumberland Panther in the OSFL, was tragically murdered in Ottawa over the weekend. Just a terrible, terrible tragedy. Again, these young football players, their whole life, all they're trying to do is play the sport that they love, and sometimes tragic things happen in life, and it's unexplainable, and obviously it's disgusting and horrible, but as a community we have to rally together, just like whenever the news of Jose came to light earlier this fall. All I want to say is, the NCAFA community does a great job of rallying together, and I have no doubt that, we'll do that once again. I want to encourage everybody, all the NCAFA community, to head on over to Bob Bar this weekend for either their Friday night games against Kempville, I want to say, or their Saturday morning games, which are the little ones, Tyke and Mosquito. The Canada Knights will be collecting a gate fee, which all proceeds will go back to Quentin's family. They're asking for $5, but feel free to bring more, obviously. And other than that, they're also going to be holding a moment of silence before every game, and I also want to encourage everybody playing in a NCAFA game this weekend to do the same, if you so choose. But Jesse, I want to kind of throw it over to you and get your thoughts on this thing. Obviously, just another terrible tragedy in the NCAFA community.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, words can't really describe the tragedy. It's senseless gun crime. By all accounts, like Quentin was just on the come up. He was a great young athlete, a great person. Every coach that had the privilege of coaching him and working with him said he's just the most respectful young man, and he had a lot in his future, and was just kind of at the wrong place at the wrong time. You think about how these sorts of incidents occur. They're happening too often in this city, I think more needs to be done in terms of youth programming and prevention. Quite frankly, there's not a lot of resources going towards prevention and programs, and I think just sports in general is a place that can really support young people and provide an outlet for youth that maybe are getting mixed up into the wrong things. And Quentin, that was not the case at all. In fact, he was a dedicated football player and started with the Canada Knights in 2017, went up through their ranks, and in 2023 won at the U19 varsity division in NCAFA with the Knights, played in the summertime with the Cumberland Panthers, and actually was in Florida trying to advance his football career. So just wrong place, wrong time. But I think the city's got to do more to prevent these sort of things happening and reach young people that are maybe going down the wrong road, that end up actually making a mistake like that and getting involved and picking up a pistol. It's a horrible tragedy. More needs to be done. But in terms of what can we do as a community right now, is we can rally around Quentin's family, help pay for the expenses. So like you said, Devin, encourage everyone to get out there. And if you can't, there is a GoFundMe. So just the saying I like to say is give until it hurts. When it starts hurting that you're giving so much is when you probably want to stop. But up until that point, like keep giving. But yeah, just horrible news to get at the start of this week.
Yeah, we just, from the TYSN team, from Jesse, from Russell, we want to send our condolences to Quinton's family, his loved ones, the Canada Knights, the Cumberland Panthers, and the entire NCAFA community suffering from this loss. Football is often the outlet for people to not get involved with this kind of stuff, and then, to see someone who had nothing to do with the circumstances put on him and just trying to advance his football career. It's truly heartbreaking, and it's been a very difficult season for a lot involved, but all we can do is rally together and support each other through this difficult time. And just want to reiterate before we move off this topic, head on over to Bob Bar Friday night, 6:30 start time at Bob Bar in Canada. Bring some money, give the gate fee, support Quinton's family and loved ones, or make it out Saturday morning, 9 a.m. start time, and then I want to say 10:30 is the game after that at Bob Bar. So everyone, make sure you head out, be there for the moment of silence, be there for your community, for your NCAFA family, and bring your gate fee. So, just everyone head out there this weekend. Just want to say that. But yeah, now switching gears to some NCAFA action, guys. It was a great weekend of NCAFA football. Russell, I want to start with you. Big Banta matchup on Friday night with Canada playing South Ottawa. You kind of highlighted that matchup on last week's show. What'd you see in that game?
Well, I mentioned it last week, how I thought Canada could be a sneaky good team coming in, taking on a Mustangs team would just come off a loss, maybe taking advantage of some bumps and bruises. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do that in this game. They fell short, 31-13, I believe was the final score. It wasn't a close matchup. I highlighted in the first week they played Myers, who's now 5-0, and they only lost by one score, and I believe that game also went to overtime. Whereas this week, you're playing a team who, in my opinion, isn't as good as Myers, and they didn't even come close, really, to beating them. So I talked about them being a sneaky good team. They had the potential to be maybe an underrated team, but when you're dropping games like that, they're not competitive. If the playoffs come and you're playing either Cumberland and you only have that last playoff seed, and you play either Cumberland or Myers, your playoff runs can end pretty soon.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Russell. And I think maybe we just need to highlight how strong these East teams are, and maybe that's the differentiator, right? Maybe it's just, the Cumberlands and the Raiders and the Mustangs are just extremely strong teams. But like you said, we'll see with Myers and Russell. I know you mentioned this on a previous show, but just remind me what their final two games are. Who do they play? Who is Myers' final two games? You said it was two strong East teams.
Two strong East teams, yeah. So the final two games of the season are going to be against the Mustangs and the Raiders. So those are two teams that are just below them in the standings. It's going to be their final big tests before the playoffs come, and they're two games that are really going to dictate their season. If they drop both those games, I'm not going to be as high on them. If they win one or even both of those games, I'm still going to be super high on the Raiders. Other than Cumberland, Raiders and the Mustangs are two of the other best teams in the league. The Raiders are still undefeated, and they could still be undefeated when the Riders come in to go and play them. So we'll see how that goes. And the Raiders have already had a big test. They had that really close, tight defensive game, 10-8, right? It was last week, 10-8 against the Mustangs. So they can play that high scoring level of football, and they can also play that really low defensive, tight end scoring kind of game. So that is probably the best matchup that we're going to see this regular season is going to be the Riders taking on the Raiders. And I believe that is the last game of the season.
And I would just say, Russell, too, like, who are the teams that could play spoiler to the end of this schedule, right? You got North Gloucester, you've got Canada that could potentially, by the end of the season, improve enough that they could hand one of these top tier teams a loss late in the season.
Yeah, I really hope so. It would make it really interesting. Like, that's what I was hoping for with the Canada. There's a bit of more of a storyline there. Can you imagine what we'd be talking about this week if Mustangs, who started off 3-0, have now dropped 2 in a row, and they're like, they'd be 3-2 or 2-2 now? We'd be like, oh well, maybe the Mustangs are as legit as we thought. obviously not the case, but can we imagine if they drop those 2 games and Canada comes up and then, Canada is in the same tier as the Riders and the Raiders? It make for an interesting storyline.
Well, and I often find those B Cup championships better than the A Cups. Like
Yeah.
they can get really good. And like you say, when you get to an A Cup, you want to get to an A Cup. A lot of kids, including myself, growing up through NCAFA, never made it to an A Cup. That's an impressive feat in its own. But when you go to a B Cup, you want to win the B Cup.
Yeah, of course.
The Bantam division is highly on watch, and I've enjoyed watching it so much this year. My matchup of the week this weekend, I think the Riders could be on upset alert. They're playing the red-hot Cornwall Wildcats here in Cornwall. Cornwall's finally gotten some things going on offense. They struggled with a couple of losses at the start of the season, but they have a lot of talent. You've seen last year, Jesse, the A Cup U14 winning Cornwall Wildcats. All of those guys have moved up to Bantam, and it's taken them a little bit to adjust to probably the size and the physicality that Bantam offers compared to Pee Wee. But we've touched on it before. Connor Hamlin's one of those guys that now plays on that Bantam Wildcats team. President Kirby Camplin's son, Bryce Camplin's their quarterback. I would like to see, the Riders come in and play one of these strong East teams, and I do still consider the Wildcats one of these strong East teams, maybe a tier below the Panthers and the Mustangs and the Raiders, but still right there. So that'll be a really interesting matchup on Sunday. Myers coming into Cornwall. We'll see what brings there. Russell, we'll see if your top pick and the Riders can take down a formidable opponent in the East. But you're right, Jesse. I think those Bantam B Cup games and Pee Wee B Cup games, that's what a lot of us strive to get to, Jesse. Like when me and you were younger, we were playing in the NCAFA. Like you said, I was never in an A Cup. The closest I made it was an A Cup quarterfinals, and we lost by 40 or something like that. So the B Cups were, and they're great football games at B Cups. Those are usually the teams that are neck and neck talent-wise, and it really comes down to like the final couple plays and the scouting. So it'll be really interesting to see.
Hey, you're in a B Cup, you're in the conversation citywide. That's a fact. And don't forget, in Cornwall, with those players, like a lot of those players have provincial level summer championship experience. They're coming off seasons. So maybe those first couple of weeks with a couple of losses were due to a result of recovery and rest. And, maybe by the late October, we're seeing this team hit its full capacity, be on full cylinders. And like I said, like who's potentially going to be an upset matchup towards the end there, and in the playoffs it's just one game.
Yep. And just to touch up on those upset matchups, we haven't actually seen really any upset matchups this season. It's always usually been the team with more wins or the favorite team that's always win. So an upset's got to happen at some point, right? It's bound to happen, whether it's now or it's in the playoffs. It's going to happen. You can never go a full season without no upsets. It's just impossible. So,
well, would we call the U19 Friday night an upset when the Norsemen defeating the 2 or 3 time varsity champion at Canada?
So Jesse, let's shift gears over to this game, because obviously you were at this game, Jesse. Tons of great content from the Friday night varsity games. Just as a fan watching all that stuff, it was awesome to see. What happened on Friday? What allowed Bel Air to finally get over the hump and take down Canada? With that being said, it is a regular season game, and Canada has that pedigree of winning championships. But to get over that hump and win on the final play on the walk-off touchdown, Jesse, what'd you see on Friday?
I'll paint the picture. The dream I think that we've always had at TYSN and over the years is Ottawa and Ontario and Canada can have football that like kind of rivals what you would see in the south of the U.S. And you're driving in at about 6 p.m. into the Nepean Sportsplex parking lot, go around the building into the back. There's not one parking spot available. I had to park my truck on some, sidewalk on the grass just to get in there. So, I'm not saying that was completely due to the football, but to a large part it was. There was hockey happening at the Sportsplex as well, but I'm just saying it was packed. The stands were rocking for this game. It was beautiful weather, as we know, and the sun setting, and we've got two great head coaches that can put together really, really great staff in Adam Gilmore and Tony Vellante. Tony, longtime coach, won many A Cups and championships at this level. He's decided to come back. We weren't sure if he was going to come back this season. He decided to. And I think what we saw was Tony's long history of coaching and winning and being able to get a team that's probably coming together for the first time. We know that at that varsity level, it's a combination of kids coming from Bel Air Lions and then also the Bell Warriors program. So kids that haven't played together for the first time, kids coming from the varsity program at Myers or Cumberland from the OSFL. It takes a few weeks to gel. And if there's one coach, I think at the varsity level that can get a team together, it's going to be Tony. And that started to shape. It basically came down. It was a back and forth matchup. Both teams, playing so well, and then it came down to basically a third down where the quarterback, who was just starting for that first week, stepping in for the starter, saw a huge gap. Linebackers cleared into their coverage zones. He went for it, walked in, touchdown, won the game. It was exciting. It was Friday Night Lights football in Ottawa, and we're getting to that point where if people are looking outside in to what football is on a Friday night in Ottawa, they're impressed.
I mean, Jesse, what a story! Like, I was watching the interview that you did with Mason Jude, was the quarterback's name, who'd get the walk-off touchdown. Also won Player of the Week for varsity on offense. Obviously, I was watching the interview, and he's saying. Tyzir Godbon, who was Bel Air's quarterback last year and returned to play quarterback this year, he was an all-star last year, and they made it to the championship against Canada. They fell short. So here comes Mason Jude stepping in, and what does he do? He takes down Canada in his first start and gets over the hump and gets a walk-off touchdown. I mean, what a story, and great job covering it, Jess, getting that interview, because you could see the emotions were real on his face after that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the reel on Instagram, and it's got 12,000 views for this kid already in a week. But it's typical, I think, of this program. I think that what makes the Norsemen so dangerous at this league is that some years they have kind of like a superstar that we all know that came up through the ranks. Sometimes it's a bunch of kind of when the time is needed, and I think Mason Jude's an example of that. Like, he's just an all-around good football player. This week he's playing quarterback, but next week he could be stuck at safety if they need him there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I still want to highlight the Canada Knights. Their illustrious reign of varsity dominance is still continuing. I'm sure these two teams will meet again. In fact, I know they will in the regular season, but probably will meet again in the playoffs. But with that being said, also shout out to the North Gloucester Giants with a huge shutout victory. I seen also an interview, Jesse, you did with Jordan Sprague, who had 3 picks in the game. 3 picks, not bad to get your first win on the season. So the Giants pick up their first win over Nepean, and then obviously just an incredible Friday night game. So make sure you get out there this Friday night. We'll do it all over again. Expect fireworks to happen. Expect crazy stuff to happen, as it always seems to happen on Friday nights. And then I also mentioned before, make sure you get out to Bob Barr Field on Friday night to support everything going on there. One other thing I wanted to leave you gentlemen with. We haven't touched on the Pee Wee division too much yet, other than with Coach Sid, so I kind of wanted to break this down. The 4-0 Nepean Eagles traveled to Millennium on Sunday at 12:30 to play the 4-0 Cumberland Panthers at Pee Wee. This is going to be an insane game, and we will have some coverage of this game later on, so everybody stay tuned for that. We'll have somebody out there getting some film from this game, getting some cool highlights and things of that nature, but that's kind of my matchup of the week. U14 Nepean taking on U14 Cumberland. We've seen that rivalry come to fruition, especially at the Bantam divisions, Jesse, in the past few years, where they're meeting for A Cups. I think 2 of the last 3 seasons it's been Nepean and Cumberland. So to see this rivalry grow from the Pee Wee division, I can't wait to watch this game. Can't wait to see what comes out of this game, and can't wait to watch all the content that we get out of it.
Yeah, I think this is an ongoing rivalry too. We've seen A Cups at the various levels with Nepean and Cumberland. I remember a few years back, I want to say it was 2019, a huge game mid-season just like this out in Millennium in an evening game at the Pee Wee level. Here we are again. Get out and check out that one. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. It was a tough week for NCAFA and for the football community. And once again, we just want to say, our condolences to the entire Quinton's family, Dorsainville family. But there's some good things on the horizon, and we can all rally together and support the football community by watching some great football this weekend. So make sure you head out on over to either the Sportsplex on Friday or make sure you go to Bob Bar and support everything that they have going on there to support Quinton. But fellas, I just want to get your final thoughts before we wrap up. Russell, what are you expecting this weekend? What's kind of on the horizon, and what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, so you mentioned it before, the game of the week. My game of the week is for Bantam is the same as you. It's going to be Cornwall taking on the Riders, probably the teams that are the most similar in skill playing this week. 3-2 are the Wildcats, and obviously 5-0 the Riders. And as you said, yes, there's a big chance that, like I mentioned before, we haven't seen any upsets yet. There's going to be an upset happening, whether it's now or it's in the playoffs. Maybe it's this weekend. I don't think so. As you know, the Myers are the best team for me. They are my pick to win the cup. Even if they don't, I still think Cumberland will probably finish the season undefeated, just with the looking at the ease of their schedule. But I still see the Riders as my pick to win the cup. But who knows? Maybe. I'm going ahead. I was talking about their last two games of the season could be their toughest matchups, but maybe they lose this game, and then you look at the next 2 weeks. You got two tough matchups there. You don't want to lose. If you lose to the Wildcats this week, the next two games after that are crucial to win if you want to get a good seed coming into the playoffs.
Yeah, Russell, what I will say is, don't take my word for it, because I am a former Cornwall Wildcat, so I'm always going to say that we have a chance. So don't take that too seriously.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with a little bias,
That's right.
Makes a good story.
That's right. Jess, your final thoughts?
Yeah, high school football in Ottawa starting this week too. So looking to see what kind of teams are there. Also looking at the QMFL, as I mentioned, we're starting to get that conversation. Haven't heard from the QMFL or the QBFL yet, but St. Leonard and North Shore undefeated 2-0 right now there at the varsity level. So it's exciting, and on to next week.
Absolutely. Well, fellas, really appreciate you joining us again. Thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate all the support that we've seen on these for the past few weeks. And we're going to keep them coming. So thank you for watching episode 5 of the Fall Football Roundup here on TouchDown Ontario for TYSN. Thank you for watching.
TYSN would like to thank Football Ontario for its support of the TouchDown Ontario program.